notoriety and cause much anxiety in society with our games. They call it impiety and lack of propriety and quite a variety of unpleasant names. But it's not against any religion to want to dispose of religion.
So Sunday, you're free. Why don't you come with me and we'll always get pigeons in the barn. And maybe we'll chew in a squirrel or two as we in the barn. We'll murder them all and merriment, except for the ones to experiment.
My pulse will be quickening with each drop of strychnine we feed to a vision. Just like a vision.
Never heard this? Oh, Gary introduced us to the guitar group.
Okay.
Well, welcome. Thank you for coming to today's placement of Gary Mayhew's cremated remains in this ossuary here in Sunset Memorial Park. You all know me, I'm Gail Rubin, but for the video version of this, in case nobody out there in YouTube land knows that's who I am, and I want to say a little bit about Gary, and we're going to have his good friend Rick say a few words about him as well. And you are all welcome to share when we get to the scattering part of putting his ashes into this tube, which goes to an underground tank with commingled cremated remains here. You can all have a shake to help that. Gary Mayhew was an incredibly intelligent man with a sense of humor who always made me laugh and always made you guys laugh too. Yeah. He was the best guitar player I have known in person, although Bill was close second. But they have the same birthday.
He's not here yet, so
okay.
Go ahead.
He was a creative writer and a game inventor. And if you come over to the house afterwards, I will show you this coupon book he made for me as, you know, if Gail is bored and Dave isn't occupied, here are all the things you can do with Gary. It's a very funny book. Gary could be so generous to others, yet stingy with himself. Although he could splurge when he wanted to. He loved good wine and loved going out to restaurants. The man could barely cook for himself. And he loved Far Side cartoons. Was that a Far Side cartoon you just brought?
No.
No, but it's got that vibe. Yeah. And in a galaxy long ago and not so far away, he was my boyfriend. Things didn't work out romantically with Gary, but he was a good friend of mine to the day that he died. And he played guitar at the wedding 22 years ago when Dave and I got married. Gary had his routines. Monday and Thursday was strategy gaming night with the boys. Yeah. Wednesdays, of course, the Wednesday night pickin', grinnin', drinkin', and Lion Society, playing guitar with our friends every Wednesday night. And Saturdays and Fridays and Saturdays, he would often be found in his band, various bands, Boxwood Consort, playing at dances. And every other Tuesday, both before I married Dave and after, Gary took me out to dinner every other Tuesday. And after Dave came along, he got to join us going out to dinner, and Gary always picked up the check. We love to watch him go into math mode. He kind of look up and figure in the tip. Well, I would like to introduce his best friend, Rick Berthold, who unfortunately missed the memorial service we did in the park when Gary first died back in 2021 because you went to another park. It was still pandemic time being outdoors. But please, say a few words.
Yeah, very few words. Yeah, I missed the memorial service because I didn't have a telephone and spent all this time looking for the non-existent Ventura Park in Albuquerque. In any case, yeah, he was my best friend for almost 50 years. And it's the gaming side of his life as opposed to the music side. I, by the way, have been graced with a beer can full of his ashes. Well, I'll think of what to do with those. Dubious, what do I want to say here? It's been like 25 years since I've even given a talk after 30 years at the university. I had the dubious distinction of being the last person to see him alive the night before he died. Very sad watching him really waste away for a couple of years. Didn't stop me from smoking. I couldn't get the lesson right. In any case, yes, we spent, I think there were times in the 70s and 80s when I spent more of my waking hours with Gary than with my wife, whom he knew very well. Yes, we played some of the games he invented, a couple of which struck me as pretty good. And a couple of anecdotes that sprung into my mind while I was thinking about this. Yeah, I think it was in the 80s, we went through a period of several years going up to Las Vegas, Nevada for once or twice, maybe 3 times in that year. He played blackjack, I played poker, and then late at night we go up and play video games with all the kids in the casino. But once we had a motel room across the parking lot from the MGM Grand, and we were walking towards it, and a working girl came up to us. Want to party? And Gary's reaction was, you mean like put on funny hats and blow instruments? She walked away. And he was actually thrown out of the casino for counting cards and blackjack. Never mind the loud drunk that was sitting next to him, because he was losing money. Those were fun times. The only non-fun times I ever had with Gary was going with him in his car when he was the driver. Very scary experience. And once we drove from here to the San Francisco Bay Area, and what a stressful thing that was. But in every other way, we were really tight. And yeah, the old gaming friends couldn't seem to be bothered to come to shit like this, but I expect they miss him. We still talk about him. And one final thing, I think Gary, when we did a lot of racing games and with other people, particularly on Monday night, and we did a series of them for tournaments and a certificate. And one of Gary's drivers was always Tubus Tubus. He came up with one very early on. We did a chariot race game, Tubus Tubus, in Latin. And now I have flashes of Gary whenever I see that asshole Tommy Tuberville, who's a senator, and just, but Tommy Tuberville, it's Tubus Tubus reincarnated as a senator. So, yeah, it was a big part of my, in fact, in the last couple of years, we've both lost big parts of our life. Her husband, my wife, Gary, a couple of cats in my case, and there you have it. The guy really was cool, and I was math man, he was math man, I was history man, and the two didn't quite meet. But boy, we had fun. So, Gary Mayhew, yes, where are you? According to him, nowhere. That's cool.
Well, actually, that's a good lead into you want a physicist to speak at your funeral.
Yeah. At my funeral?
Well, at anybody's funeral, actually.
Yeah.
We have a lot of that we can learn from physics, and in fact, when we did the memorial service in the park, I read this. Barely getting through. I think I was weeping at the time, but but I think I can do it better today.
Oh, okay.
And this is from a transcript by writer and performer Aaron Freeman, who did it on NPR News's All Things Considered. You want a physicist to speak at your funeral. You want the physicist to talk to your grieving family about the conservation of energy, so they will understand that your energy has not died. You want the physicist to remind your sobbing mother about the first law of thermodynamics, that no energy is created in the universe and none is destroyed. You want your mother to know that all your energy, every vibration, every BTU of heat, every particle, every wave of every particle that was her beloved child still remains with her in this world. You want the physicist to tell your weeping father that amid the energies of the cosmos, you gave as good as you got. And at one point, you would want the physicist to step down from the pulpit and walk to your broken-hearted spouse there in the pew and tell him that all the photons that ever bounced off your face, all the particles whose paths were interrupted by your smile, by the touch of your hair, hundreds of trillions of particles have raced off you like children, their ways forever changed by you. And as your widow rocks in the arms of a loving family, may the physicist let her know that all the photons that bounced from you were gathered in the particle detectors that are her eyes, and that those photons, created within her constellations of electromagnetically charged neurons, whose energy will go on forever. And the physicist will remind the congregation that how much of all of our energy is given off as heat. There may be a few fanning themselves with their programs, as he says it. And he will tell them that the warmth that flowed through you in life is still here, still part of all we are, even as we who mourn continue in the heat of our own lives. And you'll want the physicist to explain to those who loved you that they need not have faith. Indeed, they should not have faith. Let them know that they can measure, that scientists have measured precisely the conservation of energy and found it accurate, verifiable, and consistent across space and time. You can hope your family will examine the evidence and satisfy themselves that the science is sound and that they'll be comforted to know your energy is still around. According to the conservation of energy, not a bit of you is gone. You're just less orderly. So what we're going to do here today is put Gary's cremated remains, which is in this lovely ceramic container, which used to be Dave's that he bought with his previous girlfriend. So I thought, well, this is appropriate to put the previous boyfriend's ashes in the vase that he got with the previous girlfriend. And in fact, putting it in this opening here, which goes down to an underground tank for commingling of cremated remains. There's a lot of people's remains down there. There's a party going on down there. In fact, it includes one of my other previous boyfriends, Pete Goodwin, who he died in Texas, and he was like, get me out of Texas. So we brought him to New Mexico, and I put some of them up on Sandia Mountain, as so many people do, but a good chunk is here. It's easier to visit here. Yes. And Gary and Pete were friends for a while, and they had a lot in common, intelligence and humor, and so they both have wall plaques. If you want to take a look, you can see Gary's plaque over there, just right below and to the right of Pete's plaque. I would like to invite you all to share in the scattering. This was actually a shell that I saved from Gary's house to use I used it as a stopper. But so I'm going to play some music while we scatter Gary's ashes, and I think Gary's going to appreciate this song as we do it.
When you attend a funeral, it is sad to think that sooner or later those you love will do the same for you. And you may have thought it tragic, not to mention other adjectives, to think of all the weeping they will do. But don't you worry, no more ashes, no more sackcloth, and an armband made of black cloth will someday nevermore adorn a sleeve. Or if the bomb that drops on you gets your friends and neighbors too, there'll be nobody left behind to grieve, and we will all go together when we go. What a comforting fact that is to know. Universal bereavement and inspiring achievement. Yes, we all will go together when we go. We will all bake together when we bake. There'll be nobody present at the wake. With complete participation in that grand incineration, nearly 3 billion hunks of well-done steak. We will all fry together when we fry. We'll be French fried potatoes by and by. There will be no more misery when the world is our rotisserie. Yes, we all will fry together when we fry.
Amazing, given how, skinny he was, but...
We will all char together when we char. And let there be no moaning of the bar. Just sing out a Te Deum when you see that ICBM, and the party will be come as you are. We will all burn together when we burn. There'll be no need to stand and wait your turn. When it's time for the fallout and St. Peter calls us all out, we'll just drop our agendas and adjourn. And we will all go together when we go. Every Hottentot and every Eskimo. When the air becomes Uranus We will all go simultaneous. Yes, we all will go together when we all go together. Yes, we all will go together when we go. Another big news story of the year concerns the Ecumenical Council in Rome, known as Vatican II.
What's Tom
Now
Lehrer?
we're getting down on
Among the
that.
things
Yeah,
they did
this is Tom Lehrer,
was
yeah.
attempt to make the church more commercial.
Anybody else? I'm gonna put the rest in.
Was to introduce the vernacular into portions of the Mass to replace Latin, and to widen somewhat the range of music permissible in the liturgy. But I feel that if they really want to sell a product in this secular age, what they ought to do is to redo some of the liturgical music in popular song forms. I have a modest example here. It's called the Vatican Rag.
Yeah, he's sticking in this thing, yeah.
First you get down on your knees, fiddle with your rosaries, bow your head with great respect and genuflect, genuflect, genuflect. Do whatever steps you wanted, if you have to them with the pontiff. Everybody say his own Kyrie eleison, doing the Vatican Rag.
No, there's still stuff in there.
Get in line in that processional, step into that small where the guy who's got religion will tell you if your sin's original. If it is, try playing it safer. Drink the wine and chew the wafer.
I have Gary within me.
So get down upon your knees, fiddle with your rosaries, bow your head with great respect and genuflect, genuflect, genuflect. Make a cross on your abdomen. When in Rome, do like a Roman. Ave Maria, gee, it's good to see you. Getting ecstatic and sort of dramatic and doing the Vatican
What?
You got poisoning pigeons nearby.
Oh, we
the
played it
number
already,
library,
yeah.
By the
Yes.
way, all of Lehrer's music is at a website, and where he says encourages people to download it for free.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so
it's
maybe,
all there.
so YouTube won't swat me for having his music as part
No,
of the video?
you're good.
All those lyrics sounded familiar, but
Yeah.
I didn't think it sounded like Tom Lehrer. But yeah, how can you forget the Vatican?
Would anybody else like to say anything about Gary while we're all here together? And we'll all be together when we go. I want to thank Gary for being the wonderful guy that he was. And today would have been his 78, because he was born in August 9th, 1945. The U.S. dropped the second nuclear bomb on Nagasaki. And that was the day Gary was born. So,
Is that like transference of souls?
so you're all welcome to come back to my house and have some nibblies and drinks, and we can share more Gary stories. And I thank you for coming out today to help us put Gary in a permanent final resting place. So we know where to find him.
I have a question for musical people. Did he ever finally master the Bach chaconne that I saw him playing all that time?
Yes, he did.
He did. Okay.
Very good.
Yeah, I watched him working on that for decades.
Gil, thank you for all your help.
Yes, thank you, yes.
Thank you for coming, and if you ever want to come and visit, you know where he is.
Well, thank you. I realize this is your business.